Welcome back to Watch What Happens Live. I'm Andy Cohen.
You better not be.
I'm secretly Andy Cohen.
Oh, okay.
I have been Andy Cohen for years, and now you know.
No, I mean, the ambition's all over your face. I'm not saying you don't want to be Andy Cohen, but I'm just saying we shouldn't be at a projection place yet.
Okay, well, Clubhouse is too small for me.
Okay, yeah, true.
Couldn't be there. Anyway, hello. We are here with Casey Wilson herself.
Hi. I'm so happy to be here, guys.
Casey,
Feels right.
this is our Nook. Welcome.
Yes.
Oh.
Kara and I have been into the Nook when we were on Bitch Sesh with you and Danielle Schneider.
In my dirty kitchen. This is a proper setup. I'm seeing like 5 tech people staring at me. Danielle and I have like my cleaning woman like pressing play on a laptop, and it never uploads.
And your husband David wandering by
like making a smoothie. These are some aspirational dreams.
We do have a couple of plants, too. Yeah, the scene is set.
You have a rug.
Oh, yeah.
You have a rug.
Not under that
Not
table.
under the table.
In my home.
We are very excited for you to be here because we have been sneaking in convos about Bravo and things on the show just between Kara and I. And it's been funny watching Louis listen to us talk about Bravo.
I do have to say my interest in Bravo took a nosedive, like sort of after Project Runway left. That's basically what happened. But I am a Bethany Frankel fan in a deep way.
Yeah, so.
Wow, I'm processing everything you just said.
I'm very sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
And yet you seem to, from what I've heard of you, you know everything about pop culture, and yet you will not really dip into Bravo.
I do love reality TV. I have like a couple of blind spots, and Housewives World is a little bit one of them. I'm sort of ashamed of it.
Buckle up,
Everything
Louis.
is a stretch, by the way.
Okay.
Everything is a bit of a stretch. Maybe last time Michelle Pfeiffer won an Oscar.
She didn't,
Pre
but
that.
okay. Go
I
ahead.
know.
I see.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
That's when you watch reality TV last.
Oh, I see. You're saying the Oscars is my reality TV. Actually, that's brilliantly put. I'll write that piece for Slate.
Well, so one of the things we're talking about is why, like, quote unquote, smart people like reality TV and the Housewives.
Thank you, Kara.
I mean, I don't want to, we're smart. It's fine.
I'm in Mensa.
Oh, yeah. But, I mean, I think it's interesting, Louis.
Someone on the subway gave me a card.
What about the Housewives has not drawn you in? Because we,
Well, it's interesting because I was a one-time like real world super
And
fan.
that's an accusation.
Yes, that was.
I think. Well, my thing with Housewives is once you fall behind, my instinct is it's impossible to catch up. But I think that's not true. I bet if you can pick up
the
any
exact
season,
opposite.
Yes,
Exact
yes.
opposite.
right.
Well,
so.
Casey, do you remember? Because when I was on Bitch Sesh, and I will forever take the crown of getting you guys back on Vanderpump Rules, and you and Danielle had been off it, and then you returned.
And you told us what we needed to hear, which is that you're not supposed to like it.
Yes.
Or the people. You're supposed to like the show, but you're not supposed to like the people. And not that I like one housewife, because I don't, but I really disliked the Vanderpump people. But I was viewing the framework all wrong.
Yeah.
And now I actually love them all. And despise them. Those garbage monsters. Those 45-year-old reality
They're
stars.
With no air conditioning in their homes.
Slat blinds and dirty carpets.
It's funny because I feel like all these shows are like a comedy of manners.
Yeah.
And it's just with people who have no class. And so it's like you're watching, I don't know, the servants try to do.
My God. Try to be
They're
fancy.
definitely all like the downstairs.
Yes. No, because, it's like Lisa Vanderpump is the ringleader, and she's just letting these people who work at her restaurant. None of them work there anymore, which is funny why they still have fights on the show about who gets to work there or getting people fired. It's like none of you are
Ariana
clocking
is
in.
always shaking a martini shaker. Never not. Never not. She's talking about her vagina or she's shaking a martini mixer.
But yeah, none of them seem to work there anymore.
Except for Lisa's son Max, who is
Yes,
still a
he
bar
does.
back.
Yeah. And
I've
Peter.
seen him there.
Yeah.
Peter's a manager.
Peter.
Peter is a full manager.
Poor Peter.
He's there every day.
Well then, who do you think of the Housewives cities is the closest to like real? Because Beverly Hills was an interesting one when it started because they all had like serious money. Like it was the first Real Housewives. We were like, okay, all of these women are very rich.
Yeah, that felt nice.
Yeah, which is what we want. Which is the promise of
Thank
the premise.
you.
But like, I wonder which ones are like the most sort of legit rich ladies, if you know what I mean.
Definitely Beverly Hills. I think New York, then Atlanta.
Yeah.
I think OC seems very dodgy. Tamara lives in a condo.
She moved.
Oh, she did move.
She and Eddie upgraded.
That's right. That's right.
Because they've been decorating their house with some SponCon.
I mean, except for Heather Dubrow, of course,
Yes.
who is just disgusting.
Can we talk about Heather? Have you watched? So Heather Dubrow of the Real Housewives of
Yes,
Orange
I have
County.
watched.
She and her husband spent what felt like 18 years building this truly like a museum.
A
That they call a house.
horrendous museum.
And she has been doing these YouTube videos where she gives tours of different sections of the house.
And they're the saddest tours. She's like, this is a corner of my husband's closet. And this is the middle of an office.
She did one that was just like a staircase.
Yes! And then she'll just show like a vase. And it is truly so ugly that I cannot believe she's presenting it with such verve.
See, that's what I love about it. It's sort of like an update of, when you had like a Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, it always seemed like it was being curated. Like Robin Leach is giving you like an insight into rich people, a life that you can't have. Mm-hmm. Once we've gotten the Real Housewives now, these people have sort of become the curators themselves, but they don't have like the taste, it's like it's cribs to an even worse degree.
It's very like be careful what you wish for.
'cause it's
Like here it is. Yeah.
They are the
Here
ones
it
leading you
is.
around.
You have a basketball court in your house and you were in an arranged marriage.
My favorite genre of one of my favorite things of Real Housewives is when anyone is remodeling a home, because it happens for seasons.
So good.
I mean, the worst ones are Dallas. Remember when they wanted to buy that home with a pool in the living room?
Which they bought. And she was like, I don't think this is practical.
I think our kids might drown in it.
This is a real specific throwback. When Ramona was redoing the Hamptons house.
Never forget.
Like after the divorce.
The reveal of that was so upsetting.
It looked the
She's
same.
like, guys, I've been working on this for 15 years.
It looked the same.
It was the exact same, if not worse.
How can she spend, it's got to be 9 years now, looking like she was recently electrocuted? Just everything about her.
Here's the thing. No. Because Ramona is like 60 years old. That bitch looks
Benjamin Button.
She
Glamour.
looks good.
Oh, no, I
she
mean-
looks good.
That I
Oh,
mean,
you
just like there's something in her
the
eyes
crazy
of like
eyes, yes.
scary.
Yeah,
you
that's
know?
the Ramona eyes. But
Yeah.
Ramona, I have said this to people. If I were to ever get plastic surgery, on my body, I would let someone in LA do it. My face, I'm not letting these LA butchers touch my face, because the work done in New York, like those Upper East Side, like whoever Martha Stewart is going to, and like Meryl Streep. And honestly, Ramona, it took a minute to settle, but it looks good.
You're absolutely right. I want to go to different states for different body parts. Yes.
Dr. Miami, that's like
Taken for breasts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
breasts and like ass implants.
Do you miss the Real Housewives of Miami?
No. I miss Mama Elena.
Well, of course.
Yes.
Talk about went to the wrong state for her face.
Well, so that's the thing about these
Wrong.
shows too. There's these weird dynamics in each city when after a certain point all the people became famous. So it's not really watching people who aren't famous anymore. Yeah. It's like, oh, you're famous, so you really have to deliver the drama. You watch like an early season of New York, you're like, what the fuck are these people talking about?
Right.
Like arguing about not being invited to play tennis. So Miami is just sort of like out the gate, they tried to be crazy and interesting. And the most interesting part of any Bravo show is the reunion for a first season of a new show, because everyone is competing to still be on the show.
Right.
And they know this is their final audition. Like, this is it.
Yeah.
And Miami's first season was truly insane. You remember that woman like brought literally printed out text messages
They
that
might
she
have
had
started
with
that
someone.
trend, which is like pulling out the receipts.
Was that? Do you remember when I've kind of forgotten many of the Miami names, unfortunately, but the one that lived
don't
on
have
like a
one.
boat. She like her fiance was like, "We're not gonna live in our home anymore. I bought a yacht. We're gonna live on the yacht.
We're going to live in
forever."
this houseboat.
I remember her. I remember that there was a dentist named Karen. She had a T after her name.
Of course,
and I
Karen.
remember her tagline was, "If you don't like my smile, then don't look my way."
Just simply don't look.
And
You don't
then
like
there was
it.
Dr. Leah, not Dr.
Leah.
just Leah Black.
Yeah.
Who's now trying to get
businesswoman.
all over Jeff Lewis.
Yes.
And
Yes.
nobody wants it. She, to me, is like the Jill Zarin. Like, she wants to be back, but we're good.
Yes.
Okay, we have to talk about Jill Zarin. How are we feeling?
New York is coming back
New York is coming back.
in
Here's
March.
why I don't want Jill. If she didn't want it so much, I would be okay with it, but she needs it so much it makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah.
You know, during her husband's funeral, I've heard tell she's calling publicists saying this is a great time to get her back in, to ride that roller coaster. It's tough.
She just was so. It was interesting with Jill because I didn't like her in a fun way at all. And like some of these women I actually do not like, but even the ones you don't like, when they ebb and flow, like a Tamra or Bethany who have their seasons where they're fun to watch and seasons where they're not. Like Jill was just, it was so desperate, and they're all desperate, but the way her desperation manifests itself is just like, I don't want to watch her.
I encourage all of you to watch the wife swap with Jill and Bobby Zarin when they swapped with Blossom. No, six.
Oh, wow.
From
Jenna Von Oy,
Blossom.
yes.
Jenna Von Oy.
Yes.
Jenna Von Oy lives in like the sticks and is like, I live a simple life. And then there comes Jill Zarin. It is wild.
I love Jenna just because I
Me
felt
too.
like she spent 20 years being the white friend on black sitcoms.
Yeah, that's where I should belong myself. 100%. And I'm upset that that's not.
Well,
I haven't gotten there yet.
Well, you were on Black Monday on
true. I
Showtime,
guess that's
and
true.
Which, by the way, has every actor I've ever heard of and might run into. Like, oh, Andrew Rannells. I'll probably meet him sometime.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
when he's in town, he goes to my gym.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not wrong. Anyway. Yeah.
I'm gonna keep him far away from you, Louis.
Okay, moving
Far
on.
away. But no, like Regina Hall and Don Cheadle, you know, it's sort of almost a black show.
It is.
Yes, you know.
Yeah.
And so you're on there.
I know. You're right.
You're Jenna Von Oy now.
You've done it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like premium cable Jenna Von Oy.
Yeah. Well, I'm always the same part no matter what I do. If I'm on network, I'm like, girl, you better get out there. And on cable, I'm like, I care about you. You should get out there.
It's good to corner a market though. Much like the Real Housewives, you know what sells.
You need to know your place.
You need to know your place.
Do you know my favorite thing about looking at your filmography is you are kind of an Amy
Filmography?
Yes, but everything you've done, you're like an Amy Sedaris, where I associate you with a couple of main things, like, oh, you host that awesome podcast, you're on one of my favorite TV shows, and then I forget all these other credits and things you've done. I'm like, oh my God, you're in my life constantly. You know, just in every
sorry.
movie secretly.
So sorry.
Gone Girl, what an amazing performance, you know.
Thank you.
So thank you for being like surprisingly slyly very varied.
Thank you. That's so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
One of my actual favorite
I
things
thank myself.
that I had forgotten about was I was on a plane and I was having an Anne Hathaway day because they had like 6 of her movies. I watched Bride Wars.
I wrote that movie.
You
I
sure
know.
did. Yes.
And
With June Diane.
and I don't think I knew that. And then I'm watching it in the credits, and I'm like, and then you're in it too.
There I am. Popping up. Yeah, that was June and I's first job, and we wanted to be actors so badly. I mean, the way Jill Zarin wants back on. And we got a call that said this agent wanted to meet with us. We were like, well, this is it. Like, I'm done with my friends. I'm done with my life. Like, I'm blowing everything up.
Was there a funeral for you to invite them to? as well?
100%. And then we got a call that said, this agent wants to meet with you. We're so excited. And when we got there, he's like, so listen, I'm a literary agent. And we were so devastated. I went to the bathroom. We went to the bathroom, I had tears in my eyes. And I said, June, he thinks we're ugly. It's like a writer. What the Never been so insulted in my life. But
It's like a step above real estate. Yeah.
It's not even.
Yeah.
Real estate, you generally are like kind of cute and
Yeah, you gotta present well.
yeah.
I mean, can you imagine a world where things really took a turn and you were like, maybe they're doing the Real Housewives of Hollywood?
Of Los Feliz.
Yeah, Los Feliz.
No, I can't. Like, someone was like, "Why don't you go on Cameo? You guys don't Cameo that."
Yeah,
Cameo emailed me and asked me to do it, and I said no.
I know.
And then they keep sending you emails being like, this person's on it.
Mhm.
Logan Paul's doing it.
Danielle Staub.
I bought a bunch of them. I have a text thread.
Well, I'm their best customer.
I had just discovered it. I had a text thread, like a Bravo themed text thread, and one of them, like Katie Weaver's on it, and Kate Trees, and like Maddie Davies, so all like writers. And I secretly like got all of the recordings for all of them, and I just sent it to them unprompted. So I just like texted each of them this video
What a thrill.
of I forgot who I know I got Kelly Ben Simone was one of them.
Was she jogging while she wrote it?
She was like in a cab or something. Like she was in him.
Sonia was in the Miami airport just strolling and being like, there's a neck pillow. Happy birthday, Danielle.
I was
They're
just going to ask,
amazing.
is the primary use of Cameo still happy birthday mostly? Like mostly it's birthday greetings.
The way I use it is to trick them into saying things for our podcast that they wouldn't want to say. Like my co-host Danielle Schneider is very open about the fact that she's let some grooming go downstairs.
Okay.
She's let things just let it go. And so I had all of them, like James, Daniel Staub, and God, Sheena Marie say just like, we hope you're trimming things up. But I made it like you're trimming up your life and shaking things up. Like it made no sense. But they all said it like word for word. And it was amazing.
You know what's funny to me? I mean, and I know that it taps into like people are just like desperate and want to be famous. But in particular with the Cameo stuff, when you have rich people who were doing like SpawnCon. Like when I see Kim Kardashian still doing SpawnCon, I'm like, what is wrong with you? Like this makes no sense.
I know.
And the Cameo, they can't be making that much money.
Well, you can see how much they're making.
Yeah, they're not making that much money. And it's not going to be broadcast in a way where they're going to become more famous.
No, it's like I didn't know that they were doing transactions just between one person and them. That's not like...
Yeah, and like Ramona has money. And you're like, did you need that $150?
I guess it's fostering in the way that, actors used to charge for their autograph or something. It's audio now. I don't know. I got one for Christmas for my best friend Sam, and I got Sonia to do it.
Yeah.
She was doing it still in front of her Christmas tree, and you could hear that there was someone in her kitchen just talking in the background.
An intern.
It's
Pickles.
One of the interns.
You can make a quick, like $100-something by just picking up your phone in your living room and going, hey, this is Sonia.
Well, Sonia needs the money, though.
Yeah.
So
that is true.
What do you think happened to Pickles?
So I was just talking about this. I'm like, is Pickles gone the way of like, God, what's her name? Miscavige. Shelley Miscavige.
Oh, yeah. On a boat somewhere.
Is she
Yeah.
just like gone?
Pickles was one of, for the deep fans, Pickles was one of Sonia's interns. Like,
The fan favorite.
one of her confused deer in the headlights interns who
I
just
met-
populated the house.
I met an intern of Sonia's this weekend who said that he just emailed her website. She wrote him right back and was like, come on over Tuesday anytime. So he just wanders in, and he said he worked for a summer just showing up whenever. And that I was like, well, what's a sample job and were you paid? He's like, oh, absolutely not paid. He said a sample job was building a fence around her koi pond because, quote, a lot of dogs and cats had died in there. Had drowned. I said, you mean the fish were dying? And he said, no, she said dogs and cats.
What the fuck?
What the fuck?
Upton Sinclair's The Jungle over here? What is going on?
I love how she's like a modern, what was it, Joan Crawford? Because remember, it was that she, like, fans of hers, she would let them be her assistant.
Yeah, like Mama, what
and
was her
live with
name?
her.
Like Mamacita? Or...
Yeah.
Yes.
Mamacita at least had a home and things, but other fans would be like, oh my God, I love you. And
Yeah.
she's like, come live with me and be my assistant for
Because it's so
several
narcissistic.
weeks.
It's like, I know you're all in with me.
Sonia. Sonia's maybe like Sonia's one of the housewives where Sonia's dark moments, they're not Taylor dark, but that
How
wasn't
dare you.
I know.
Well, no,
But they're like
they're
she's
dark.
had some dark moments.
Oh,
So
yeah.
some of the beauty of the show, actually, particularly why Beverly Hills was always one of my favorites, is that it always felt sort of like a pristine drama. You're watching these people's lives in Hollywood, and you're just getting like the slow peel behind the curtain. It was very like American Beauty, just so like because it's about like. Part of the reason why, even as the show got really boring last season, the ratings were still high because apparently people were still watching it for the lifestyle aspect. Yeah. So that seemed more like a lifestyle show instead of a drama-driven one. But it was fun when the drama would sort of seep out of it. It's like you're just watching these like rich bitches be crazy, and then season 1 ends with revelations that Kim's an alcoholic, screaming about Kyle stealing their house.
That's maybe one of the
Darkest scenes that we've had.
I mean, so I don't know if you can pick one. To me, the best Real Housewives episode ever is the Berkshires episode, part 1. The original part. Like, best real episode of Real
Part 1
Housewives.
of 25.
Part 1 of 25. Part 1 of they should release the uncut footage. But the limo one it's not like fun in the way Berkshire's was, but it's so
not
iconic.
fun. Yeah, because they're related and they give us a drama that casual friends cannot ultimately.
Yeah.
They're sisters, and she's harboring the secret that her sister is an alcoholic and screaming it in a limo on national television. It's so Revolutionary.
Yeah, yeah.
I-
Could you pick a favorite
Yeah.
episode?
What's your favorite?
Oh God.
Mine is still Beverly Hills, the dinner party from hell.
With the psychic,
just,
yeah.
Just the idea
Yeah,
of
yeah,
the
yeah.
psychic who Patricia Arquette's show Medium is based on is there smoking an e-cigarette, telling Kyle your husband is going to leave you, and the fact that Faye Resnick is there and she's called out by Camille for posing in Playboy after her friend Nicole was murdered by OJ.
I like Scary Island, that one when Kelly Ben
Yeah.
Simone was out on the island and went on that monologue.
Yeah.
That was so unintelligible. She's like, "You're like Gwyneth Paltrow, jelly beans, and don't tell me to go to bed."
Al
Mountaintop,
Sharpton.
Al Sharpton.
Satchels
She's
of
like, "Call me
gold.
Al
Satchels of
Sharpton,
gold.
satchels of gold," and it was like watching just something.
One
a
time,
meltdown.
I interviewed Kelly Bensimon. It was years ago. It was for a random website, and I was familiar with her on the show, and I knew she sort of
You were familiar with her work?
her non sequiturs, kind of. And I picked up the phone, talked to her. Truly, writing it down, it was like a serial killer sending a message through code. Like, I just had no idea. Like Zodiac, like none of the words matched up. But then at the end, it was a movie website actually, and she said, "Oh, my favorite movie is Rear Window," and I was like, "Oh, that's my favorite movie too. Are we,
Wow.
related or something?" You know, it was very scary.
That was my favorite episode for a long time. Scary Island.
Part 1.
Part 1.
Part 2 is I mean, it's still all together iconic, but the thing about we were saying about Jill before, it is so I love how it should be darker, that Kelly is like having some sort of mental breakdown on
No, it's played
the
for comedy.
island. That's,
Yeah.
that's played for comedy
The
until
music was like, dee,
yeah.
dee, 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 boop, boop.
until Sonia of all people is sort of like, maybe she needs help.
As Sonia's teeth, more teeth fall out.
Sonia was like, "Guys, we have to be nice to her. Something's wrong with her." Like in front of Kelly.
Something's
love-
very
I
wrong.
love how that should be the darkest, but the actual darkest is the third part of Scary Island, where
When Jill
when
shows
Jill
up.
shows up, because there's just something so dark about you surprising your friends on a vacation, them seeing you and saying, "You need to leave.
And
You need to
Alex
No one
starts
wants
shaking.
you here."
Alex
Yes.
is convulsing
You're like, "Look at what you're doing to her. She's shaking.
while
no
they're all
one wants you
getting
here."
while they're getting pedicures.
Also, and then she
also-
just kind of politely excuses herself, right? Like, I've
No,
seen that
she-
episode.
She leaves, and then Ramona goes out and talks to her, and then she's like, "Bobby, we're going. Bobby got a plane for me. Bobby, we're leaving."
I guess they don't want me here. I
Yeah,
guess they don't
yeah.
want me
They
here.
don't want me here. It's like, no, they don't.
Bobby got me a plane, guys. Bobby got me a plane.
I also love when Lou falls in the bushes. To me, that's one of the greatest comedic moments we have. But I also love in Atlanta that whole. I mean, I don't love it, but it was so dark with like the Phaedra, Portia, Candy.
Well, so that's a reunion that's
Fallout.
so good.
Well, remember when Candy was sitting at the table with Portia
Oh.
and
Oh, the-
Candy said,
Yes.
and Candy said, it seems like you were coming on to me. And Portia says, and I quote, "I don't like teapots short and stout." It's the best line. I have it embroidered on a needlepoint. I don't like.
Atlanta
Whatever
really,
it was.
the catchphrase queens,
Yes.
all of Atlanta.
The problem with Atlanta trying to pick a favorite episode is that they just are full of iconic, crazy moments
And
in
they're
an episode.
genuinely funny people.
Yes.
Yeah, so they're all funny, but it's like they never really have a self-contained episode that feels
It's all like one
nutty,
long episode.
except for maybe the South Africa episode where Marlo and Sheree are fighting with one another and then devolve into just like saying nonsense. They're not even speaking anymore.
but I mean, but then you also have the wig pull.
Yeah.
Like there are
Yeah.
just so
And
many.
when Michael Lohan walks by in the background, inexplicably,
Sheree
they're like
doing-
fighting each other, and someone's like, "Michael Lohan."
Sheree doing a fashion show and no
There are
fashion.
no fa-
Joggers.
One
Joggers.
thing I will say about Atlanta is I think at this point, obviously, all of the women are like friends, but they're coworkers. Atlanta, to me, they're kind of the most professional in the sense that they will be friends one season and really not give a shit if it benefits the story to make up the next. Like they're really like, we're showing up to work.
And I feel like they were on the forefront of let's put some looks out there. Let's look
Yeah.
great and give the people something to look
Yeah.
at. And now then Beverly Hills jumped on that.
Yeah.
Well, so
Jersey's
that's
jumped on it
actually-
in their own way.
Well, that's actually why the Phaedra, saying that Candy allegedly tried to drug
And had a sex dungeon.
and had a sex dungeon and was trying to drug Portia and have sex with her. That's why that one was just so dark, because they all seem to be of the opinion that we're producing a show and we have work fights. And that one just seemed like Phaedra jumped out the window.
That one went crazy.
This was a fight of something that could affect Candy legally and her career.
But did you guys notice that Phaedra was at Andy Cohen's baby shower?
Yes.
Did.
Yes. So.
And Danielle Staub wasn't allowed due to a, quote, misunderstanding.
But she came.
That I believe.
No,
That I
Danielle
believe.
was uninvited, but she still showed up.
Of course she did. She scares me, truly terrifies me in my soul.
She's getting. How long was that marriage?
I think it was like 45 days, and apparently Marty Cafferty, I think is his name, is haunting her through the Nest Cam. And she'll be in their house, and he's just like turning down the heat and turning it up, and she's like, he's haunting me.
But yeah, I just finally, that feels like the baby shower is sort of like, that's a thing where Andy Cohen has become this sort of
Daddy, that's what they call him.
Yeah,
Daddy.
they call him Daddy.
Warbucks.
And they all have to appeal to him. It's like Phaedra did this horrific thing, but he's smiling with her at
They
the
have
baby
to
shower.
kiss the ring.
Yeah, Nene is like, I'm bringing Phaedra to this event so that you can be friendly with each
Bringing
other.
her
and
back
you
to
can come
polite
back
Did you
society.
notice that Nene was sitting next to him, like at the head of the table?
Of course.
Yes.
Which was really like Nene cementing that like queen bitch
I
role.
think Nene has always been, I think they fight, but that they have always been like,
Yeah,
tight.
they love each other.
And Nene was like the first one where you're like, we actually can't do this show without her.
and they tried.
They tried and it didn't work. But like there wasn't a housewife before, I think maybe like a Ramona or a Bethany
I
kind
think it
of.
worked
Vicky.
because I've always been a fan of Kenya, but that's just me.
Well, you know how much I love them.
I know, Kenya's everything. That's just because Nene, for a period, thought that she was a serious actress and was going to be in every Ryan Murphy vehicle, and
What
has
was that
not been
show
in
she
one
was
since.
on?
New Normal with Andy
Yes,
Reynolds.
correct.
And then
yes.
she was brought back to be a coach on Glee
Oh, yeah.
after New Normal was canceled.
And then she was like hosting Cirque du Soleil.
Yeah.
Natural progression, really
Yeah.
common in Hollywood.
It's right. It's part of my filmography.
Right.
So, Casey,
Yeah.
I don't know.
We could do this all
We could
day.
do this
Yeah,
all
we could do this
fucking
Oh,
day.
I actually have a question for Housewives fans. How heartbreaking is it to have like a favorite, and then I feel like this happens often, they have some sort of arc where then you have to hate them for a while, and then do you still feel defensive towards them, or do you like
no,
you let them go?
I lose my allegiances immediately, including if you were to say, "Oh, I don't like Bethany," I'd be like, "I hate her too," and then you're right back there, following it like I don't know, like heroin.
It's honestly, it makes me understand a little bit WWE. Because it is like
You are
Which I love.
so right.
Which
you
I
know?
love.
Because it is you can switch allegiances and it's all
And you know
kinda-
it's fake.
and you know it's fake and you know it's going to circle back.
Right.
You know what I mean? You know that there are people crafting this, and like if there's a season when Tamra is being particularly terrible, she's going to get a season when she's kind of cool. So it's just
It's all
like
temporary.
It's just temporary and you're biding your time.
Well, so that's why I always loved Kenya more the most, because she came into the show and realized that Housewives of Atlanta needed a heel. So she was there, she was the villain, and speaking of how they all understood it was work fights, I could tell that Kenya and Phaedra actually loathed one another, but they still, even after their huge fights, would have scenes where like they go to lunch together and it's like, hey girl, let's try and fix this relationship because they're producing a show.
yeah.
And you can see when it
I
happens.
appreciate when the women know their role and know what they need to do.
New York, they do that as well too. Like they'll sometimes have fights. Like
Even
they'll call each other
Dorinda will-
a whore.
Yeah.
Everything. Like when Bethany was calling Luann like a whore. You fuck
You're
everyone.
You're a slut. You're a slut, Luann.
But they're
Those
still.
are hard things to come back
Guys,
from.
Friends.
can I tell you that my last anecdote, and I know our producer is going to murder us. I was watching that episode, the Berkshire's episode. I was home in Seattle with my dad.
You'll never forget where
And
you were.
I'll never forget where I was, and I was watching it. And he could hear it. Like I was watching it, and he just was listening in the background, kind of. And the next morning, I was writing a post. I was at Jezebel still about that episode. And my dad's like, "What are you writing about?" I was like, "I'm writing about the Real Housewives, Luann, da da da." And he goes, "Oh, Luann the slut."
Wow.
Because he had heard Bethany screaming it, and I was like,
Luann the
"Yes."
slut.
Yes,
But
it
that's
was the
how
way
much
this,
it's
like,
permeated the culture because you said you didn't know anything, and yet I feel like a couple times today you were like, I did see that episode.
Right, no.
It's just
you do
all
feel
around us.
obligated. Yeah, right. And
Yeah.
also, along with the WWE thing, it's like, you're right, characters have to come around again because it would be so interesting if one stayed bad, for example. You know, like they know how to keep it really entertaining.
So that's why, finally, I will say it is not hard for you to jump into a Housewives franchise because much like wrestling, much like even watching a soap opera, you know, it's a long-running show, and the women, the configurations may change, but in season 11 of Real Housewives of New York, they are still technically fighting about the same thing that they were fighting about in season 2. It's just in a different situation.
Well, Andy said, not to quote him, I'm like Sir Andy. Andrew once said that he wanted to build the franchise in a way that you think you couldn't live without someone, but you can.
Wow.
That's
So
smart.
that they never need someone too much, but I think Nene's sitting next to him because they know they need her.
That's how I
Insane.
live my friendships.
Yeah.
Okay.
No one's
Can go at
denying
any
that.
point.
Yeah,
You
right.
can go at any point.
Am I going now?
Goodbye, Casey.
Bye, guys.